This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
As Christians, we're called to do more than just punch in and punch out at our jobs, even though some days it can be a struggle. Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
Well, always great to have you, especially when the weather starts to turn nice. It can be a challenge at times to focus on the job at hand, but Scripture's anything but silent when it comes to the topic of not just going through the motions at work. One of the best known passages is Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord. Talk about an imposing supervisor.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's so much in the Bible about how to live our lives, and that includes how we do our jobs, doing it with excellence. And there is so much to unpack in this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Scripture references work attitude. Even if you were a servant or enslaved, a lot of this was written during those times. It's tough not to really have some empathy for someone who was in those circumstances, having a less than enthusiastic work attitude. And of course, we get some compelling examples from Daniel and Joseph, among others.
Absolutely. And these are two amazing guys in the Bible to do this study on and to really get to understand what their attitude was and how they leaned on the Lord during these times. Because it wasn't, they didn't just have, as you said, they didn't just have a job they didn't like. They were enslaved. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
However, that did not impact their worship of the Lord, nor did it impact how hard they worked.
Yeah, and they give us great examples, and it just comes down to where our priorities truly lie.
Absolutely. And I mean, nowadays, too, if you can become a worker of excellence and work even in a job that you don't like, this is really, just like the housing market is a seller's market, this is an employee's market, because employers across the country, and probably more than just the United States, are having a hard time finding quality workers because of how entitled, how right-focused we have become as a society. I have a right to do this, and you don't. Who are you to tell me? All these attitudes are unbiblical attitudes that, if anybody should have had those attitudes, it would be Daniel and Joseph. They're held in slavery, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And a lot of people these days are acting as if going to work is slavery, and it's not. It is a privilege and a blessing to have jobs that we can go to, particularly in Daniel. Just this morning, actually, at our men's Bible study at my church, we were reviewing Daniel, and particularly looking at the words that the Bible uses to describe Daniel. He was exceptional in his work. He was trustworthy, and he was neither corrupt nor negligent. And of course, those that were trying to go after Daniel were trying desperately to find something, and they just couldn't find anything. Why? He did his work with excellence. He knew he wasn't working for the king. He was working for the Lord. The king, exactly. The one and only, exactly.
You're listening to Real Answers. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. We're talking about striving for workplace excellence and the importance that Scripture places on that. And it also comes down to not just how you do your job specifically, but how you act while you're at work, too. Because people often, as we've said before, that's the Bible they actually see.
This is a topic that could be really unpacked over the course of hours, but we're not going to do that. One thing I want to point out very clearly is that excellence does not mean striving for perfection, okay? Because the problem with striving for perfection is that's motivated both by fear and pride. Our pride, we want to be perfect where nobody can find something at fault with us. And fear, because we might be afraid that if we look weak or if we look imperfect somehow, that'll come back later in a negative way on us. However, the problem with that is excellence means when we make a mistake or when we don't do something the way we could have, what do we do at that point? Do we try to hide it from our employer? Do we try to shift blame to somebody else? That's not working with excellence. That's our pride that's causing us to make the wrong choices. So excellent is not working for or striving for perfection. It's striving to honor the Lord in what we do. There's a big difference there. And another thing is, if you're an employee for a company, what if you went in with a mindset as I'm going to work and give my effort today as if this company's success depends not only on me, but what if I own the company? What if I was the employer, not the employee? And I'll tell you what, do you want to be recognized by your employer? Do you want promotions, raises, If you go in with this attitude where your employer sees that you're treating this company or your position, whatever it is, I don't care what you're doing. If you're working as a vice president of the company, or if you're working an entry-level job at a retail store, you treat that place of employment as if that's your own. You watch. Some people are going to take notice. Now, interestingly enough, those who had their eyes on Daniel, that elicited a sense of jealousy in them.
Right.
But did that deter Daniel? No. He kept working as if he was working not only unto the Lord, but those that were watching him were jealous at his efforts and jealous at how well he was doing. Okay, so if you go into work with that attitude that you own the company, and what does that mean? You take care of your tools? Do you take care of the equipment? Are you being honest with your time? Like if you have to keep track on a timesheet of what you're actually doing, are you being honest there? Tell you what, God knows, even if your employer doesn't.
Yeah, it goes back to just the simple example of, do you grab a paper clip or a pencil? It's just the little things, but it indicates a big attitude.
Excellence comes in how we deal with the little things, not the big things. Excellent is how are we working when nobody's watching? How are we taking care of our employer's time, equipment, the facilities when he's not looking? Because if the employer is standing over your shoulder, anybody can be good at that point. Can you be trusted? That's huge. There's so much more to unpack, but I know we don't have that much time.
For sure. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the parable of the talents, too. If you show yourself trustworthy with a little, we'll trust you with some more.
Yeah, see how much the Bible really unpacks this topic. Mm-hmm. I mean, because it's so important to God. It's so important to God because it really is an indication of who you are inside as well.
You've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anston. Thanks again, Chris.
My pleasure, Mark.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.